want a ticket straight to them pearly gates.
When people say like they don't like that Heihachi was resurrected, I kind of feel them. As someone who documented the disappearing of Heihachi for many years, it's pretty interesting. So this is 3/4/17, right? So this is when Tekken 7 kind of came out, right? But he says not everything is over, but Mishima confrontation between Kazuya and Heihachi will end by the death of either one. And this is what Tekken 7 was kind of all about. That's why Heihachi had this whole redemption arc. They tried to reframe a lot of his story and kill him off as a hero. Edward says he needs to come back. I understand why you say that. Like, he is a very important part of Tekken. The whole thing is like, with Tekken 7, they were set in stone. We're killing the character. We're moving on. As in, literally when it's time for the next game, they're like, actually, never mind. And I feel like that's the whole problem with Tekken as a whole. Each game is just random garbage, and it's not a clear, concise story. It's not, a true narrative being told. They're just winging it, basically. They're just winging it. And then, yeah, you have, like, Echo says Japapi needs to come back now. And that's my whole point. Is like, they're just doing whenever, whatever, like they've always done. And in my opinion, it has only hurt the story. And obviously, we can't tell what they're going to do with Tekken 8 story. It could be really amazing, but, it's just more of the same. It's more of the same willy-nilly. Let's see what, we could cook up for the story, and who cares about what came after? Who cares about what comes before? It's like the living in the moment kind of storytelling. And the reason why that's not good is because, look at Star Wars, right? Star Wars is the greatest example of living in the moment. You can say that Tekken is kind of doing the same thing. They don't have some narrative that they have planned out over the series. There's no direction, right? There's no direction that they want to travel. There's no end goal. They're just doing stuff just to do it. And with the resurrection of Heihachi, it's obvious, right? It's obvious they're just like, doing whatever they want. Not whatever they want. That's a bad way to say it, but like, they're not thinking ahead. They're only thinking in the moment. And when you're telling a story, that's not how you should be telling the story, So that's what I think. Is like, people who say that like Heihachi coming back is not a good thing. In my opinion, I kind of agree with them. And the more I sit here and like think about Heihachi's return, the more it sinks in. And now I'm not gonna be upset. I'm not gonna be like, they should have never done that. That's not the point that I'm trying to make, right? I'm just simply saying that in every single Tekken game, they did random garbage. And look at 30 years later, their whole storyline is complete trash. You had Jin being a villain in Tekken 6. Everyone hated that, so in the next game they made him good again. What was the story that they wanted to tell with Jin? In Tekken 6, they made him a villain for a reason. But then they just completely throw it away and he's good again. All you got to do is press X to forgive yourself and he's good again. It's like, what story were you telling there? In Tekken 5, when Japapi, what story were they trying to tell there? So it's just like, they just do all of this random stuff and they're not telling a story. If you look at the whole Tekken franchise, it doesn't make sense. There's retcons everywhere. There's confusions They literally retconned the story for Kazumi to make her make sense. And then now they're bringing back Heihachi again, which makes that pointless. So why did you do the retcon if you're going to bring back Heihachi again and it's not going to be final? This tweet here that you see on your screen, it's literally saying that whole chapter is supposed to close, and they retconned the story to fit that closure of Heihachi, but he's not gone. So what is the retcon about? So that's basically what I'm saying. Is like, it's just more of them doing like random garbage gibberish every single Tekken game. And we may enjoy it in the moment. In the moment, we'll love it. This is incredible, yes. But when you look backwards, you see nothing but retcons, confusion, dropped plot lines, plot holes. You see dead ends. You see characters doing one thing in one game and in another game they're acting completely different. That's what you see going all the way throughout Tekken when they do stuff like this. So when people say they don't like that Heihachi's returned, that is why. Because they're not telling a narrative, they're just trying to entertain. And those two things are totally different. When you're telling a story, it's different from telling, like, it's different from just like being a circus clown throwing around some, juggling, right? So that's what I think, right? I love Heihachi too, right? I don't want you guys to think like, oh, Moonsaw, you hate Heihachi. I love Heihachi. But you gotta be honest with yourself and say, like, they're just winging it. They don't have a blueprint planned out for the story. So put it like this, right? So Tekken 7 told its complete narrative. At the end of it, Heihachi was supposed to die. Tekken 8 is telling its complete narrative. What if at the end of Tekken 8, all of the progress we're watching is scrapped, thrown out of the window, and in Tekken 9, like, Reina doesn't exist or something like that, right? They retcon Reina out of the story. They retcon Victor. Like, that's basically what I'm saying is, like, right now Tekken 8 is erasing what Tekken 7 did. Tekken 7 erased what Tekken 6 did. When are they going to stop erasing the previous game and tell a complete narrative? That's very bad writing. Every new game, you erase what you did in the previous one? That's literally what they did for the past 3 games. And why are they continuing to do that? And the topic isn't really about Heihachi. Heihachi is not the issue. It's the way that they're doing everything, which is the issue. Heihachi is just one branch on a whole tree of retcons and bad writing, right? You have many different issues throughout the entirety, and you really don't even have to go all the way back to like Tekken 1, 2, 3 and whatnot, right? Those games are different. What I think is, like, I separate it from modern Tekken and previous Tekken. In modern Tekken, you have 6, Tag 2, 7, and 8. All the other Tekkens before that is of a different era, right? When you see in these modern Tekken games, they continuously erase the past game, and then they just do whatever in the next game, and then the next game comes, and then they retcon the past one. It just comes off as like very lazy, very sloppy, and it makes you like confused as to what they're doing. And people say, when people are disappointed about Heihachi's returning, that is why I understand. Because where does it end? The retcons, the changes in story and direction. Most Tekken fans are nostalgic junkies and old men who hate change, so Namco has to pander to them. That's true. It's harsh, but it is true. A lot of you guys are very nostalgic driven. That's why you want characters like Michelle. People are calling lore heads and fans of the story fake Tekken fans. The Tekken community is the Star Wars community of gaming. I don't know if I would say, I get what you're saying, but I don't know if I would say that. I just think with Tekken and most fighting games, people just care more so about the gameplay. Like, you know, so I went on this long talk about the story, and most people will hear that talk about the story and be like, bro, we don't care about that. We don't play Tekken because of story. If you think about it, Tekken has the Guinness World Record for the longest lasting story in gaming. But if you look at Tekken, it has one of the worst stories in gaming, and that's such a it's almost like we don't deserve that Guinness World Record. How do we have the Guinness World Record for the longest lasting story, and our story is absolute trash, retcon? Like, you know,